Welcome everyone in today's videos for cognitive development and learning. So we will learn how does the mind develops. When I say mind, it is synonym with brain. So how does the brain develops and cognitive development is all we will be talking with the passage of every years that a human being takes steps on this planet and eventually matures. So the thinking process of the brain is cognitive development and learning. So we will talk about one, two theories of the authors, famous psychologist, psychiatrist, and cognitive scientist, and what were their theories all about it. Of one of them is Jean Piaget's theory of cognitive development. Definitely, this theory does not only focuses on how children acquire knowledge, but also understand the nature of intelligence, as in what is knowledge and how does one acquires. Is it through self experience or is it through observations altogether? Jane Piaget noted these stages. Now, what were the stages? The age being 0 to 1 year or below 365 days of existence on this planet, or from 2 years to 7 years, or from 7 to 11 years, and eventually the full bloom teenage years of 11 to 16. So yes, when we are talking about sensory motors, conception of real worlds, or probably how the world works around it, build mental pictures of the object, then it becomes a pre-operational from 2 years to 7 years. This is where it needs concrete physical situation. This is the place where you are talking about egocentrism. Then is 7 to 11 years, definite formative years, where we are talking about problem solving, acumen that builds up. It is all about logical thoughts. It's all about objective that they can manipulate. And the formal operation is the maturation of the brain is from the 11 to 16 years, where conceptual reasonings has been taken care of, logical thoughts of object without manipulating as the case might be. Allow me to give you a brief history about Piaget's theory of cognitive development. Piaget was born in Switzerland in the late 1800s and was a precocious student, publishing his first scientific paper when he was just 11 years old. His early exposure to the intellectual development of the children came when he worked as an assistant to Alfred Binet and Theodore Simon as they worked to standardize the famous intelligent quotient test, or IQ test as it has been told. Pigeon believed that children take an active role in learning process, acting much like little scientists. As they perform experiments, makes observations, learn about the world. As a kid interact with the world around them, they continually add knowledge, continually build upon the existing knowledge, and if possible, and they adapt previously held ideas to accommodate new information thereby. Now, let me give you another facets of another theories of Vogel's theories and compare it with Piaget's theories of child development. Yes, in this, the internal driver for Piaget theory would be development fueled by child's explorations and interactions with the environment. Whereas Vygotsky, the famous Russian scientist, said external factors dependent upon, heavily influenced on what has been the child been experienced through in social interactions, culture, guidance from a knowledgeable others. That is where Vogels believes in. So Piaget is all about theory internal driven, and Vogels was all about external driven. Let us go about the stage theories of Piaget's. As I've already told you, from 0 to 1 years, 2 to 7 years, 7 to 11 years, and 11 to 16 years. Cognitive development happens in distinct stages with qualitative and quantitative differences in thinking between the stages. Whereas Vygotsky was a proponent of incremental development or continuous process, no distinct stages. Development seen as a continuous interaction between individual and the environment. Piaget's theory was all about individual focus, less emphasis on social, cultural, and influential on learning. But Vygotsky's was completely opposite to it. It was social emphasis. Learning happens through collaborations and communication with others, especially in the zone of proximal development. In short, Piaget sees internal factors like exploration, driving, development in the stages, whereas Vygotsky sees external factors like social interactions, culture playing a bigger role for continuous learning. So, allow me to give it to the Piaget's theories. It is from birth to 2 years. The first stage is the sensory motor stage of cognitive development. Here, the child entire experience in the earliest period of the stage occurs through basic reflexes, senses, and motor responses. Know the world through movement and sensation. Learn about the world through basic actions such as sucking, grasping, looking, listening. Learn that things continues to exist even when they cannot be seen, or probably it is all about nothing being on a permanent basis. It keeps on shifting. Realize that they are separate beings from people and objects around them. Realize that their action can cause things to happen in the world around them. Children go often through a period of dramatic growth, of dramatic learning thereby. Now, from 2 years, the stage number 2 is from 2 years to 7 years, is the pre-occupational stage of cognitive development. Begins to think symbolically and learn to use his words, pictures to represent object. It is all about being egocentric, struggle to see things from the perspective of others, getting better picture with languages and thinking, but still tend to think in a very concrete terms. Kids learn to pretend play, but still struggle with the logic and taking the point of view of others. Children become much more like skilled at pretending play during the stage of development, yet they continue to think very concretively about the world around them. What about the stage number 3? It's all about 7 to 11 years, right? The concrete operational stage of cognitive development happens out here. Begins to think rationally, logically about concrete events. Begins to understand the concept of conservations. That the amount of liquid is a short. Wide cup is equal to that of tall. Skinny glasses, for example. Thinking becomes much more logical and organized, but still very, very concrete. Begins the use of inductive logic or reasoning from a specific information to a general principle. It can also be very rigid. Obviously, one can get fixated about their ideas, about their thought, about their opinions. Less egocentric and begins to think about how people might be thinking as the case might be. The fourth stage is stage 12 and till maturation. It goes on and on. It's a formal operational stage of cognitive development, increase in logic, the ability to use deductive reasonings and understanding as the case might be. This is what we are looking forward to. Begins to think abstractively and reasoning about hypothetical problems, begins to think about more of a moral, philosophical, ethical, social, political issues rather than theoretical and abstract reasoning, begins to use deductive logic and reasoning for general principles and specific information. Here, the ability of thinking about abstract ideas takes a proper concrete shape. The ability to systematically plan for futures and reasonable about the hypothetical situation. Let us understand the cognitive development concepts. Now, Paget suggests several influences about how children learn. That is of schemas of things, various logical things, assimilation. Then we have something called accommodation. We have the equilibration, cause and effect relationship, and the takeaways, as in the understanding of a situation, grasping about an condition, and probably that is what we are. So again, the several factors of schemas, assimilations, accommodations, equilibrations, and takeaway. These are the factors that influences how children learn and pick up things. So studying children knowledge, we will talk about structuralism, functionalism. How structuralism, let's say, how has a knowledge been organized? And how does it change with age? Influenced by Paget and Werner. Functionalism is what processes underlying changes in knowledge, influenced by behaviorism and the way you process information. The author suggests moving beyond this separate approach and integrating them into a more complete understanding. Studying school age children, there are large bodies of research on cognitive development in school age children. A consensus is emerging about the patterns of cognitive development and the relations to schooling. Core issues for further researchers, interactions between child and environment in development, how development varies across various different behaviors, be it cognitive, be it emotional, or be it spiritual. Research methods to address these issues are very important. So there are four major stages of cognitive development from the age of 4 to 18. 4 to 18. Let me give you the all the four stages. Simple relations of representation is at age 4. Children learn to relate different ideas like understanding someone else's perspective, point of view, understand from what angle they are speaking. This is debated at the start of major concrete operations or a separate state. Stage number 2 is from the age of 6 and 7. Children can systematically handle complex representation, understand logic and conservation. They can deal with complex social perspective and understand multiple social categories thereby. What are we looking into the stage number 3 is the formal operation, age 10 to 12, just pre-formative teen years. Children can generalize across concrete instances and handle hypothetical reasoning. They can understand and probably even use general definition to solve complex problems. Some debate if this is the peak of concrete operation or at the start of something new, like an abstract thinking. The fourth and the final stage is relating abstraction or hypothesis. This is the age between 14 and 16. Herein, we talk about adolescents can generate new hypotheses, deals with relational concepts, and combine abstraction. Additionally, levels may be developed in a late adolescent sense and adulthood, even to a more complicated situation thereby. Cognitive development doesn't strictly follow the fixed stages as proposed by Piaget. Instead, there are wide variation based on several conditions, several factors, be it environmental, be it emotional, be it situational. So variabilities is all about development unevenness is common, meaning children developed at certain speed. Not all children are equal. This becomes more pronounced in school years as children specialize based on their abilities and experiences thereby. Next is limited research on sequence variations. Most studies only explore variations in speed on a fixed sequence, not different sequences themselves. This focuses on commonalities instead of differences might explain the lack of research on individualism variations in the sequence. Then comes hypothesis. Hypothesis is relative development sequences. Development sequences might based on the child, the situation, and the culture. So x-axis, y-axis, and z-axis when we talk about it. Again, I repeat, the child as far as individual abilities and experiences are concerned, the situation as in the context on which we are talking about, and the culture is what are the absolute standard norms in the society. So challenges is classification system. Universality and relativity of sequences aren't opposite. Using more general classification, all children might show that same sequences in dominance. But with a more specific classification, they might all show different sequences in the same order. So three main types of models in cognitive development theories. One is the logic model, next is the information processing model, and the last is the incremental or should I say continuous change model. In the logical model or the logic model, the model suggests the development involves logical steps and stages, but evidence often is not supporting this idea. Information processing model is the model based on child as an information processor with a limited memory but struggle to explain complex behaviors. Then is the continuous change model. This model suggests that development is gradual and influenced by general experiences, but it may be underestimated the role of internal reorganization. Future researchers should consider models that combine both organismic and environmental factor for a more complete, or should I say better understanding of the cognitive development. Now, what researchers in cognitive development are moving away from is competing theories towards a unified understanding of how children grow over a period of time. So, this involves considering both the children or the child and the environment in which they grow up, as in what are the genes, what were the experiences, how was their interactions shaping up. Next is connecting different learning areas. Do skills learned in one area like mathematics get influenced in other area, let's say language? Developing much research methods or better research method. How can we study children's learning in a more comprehensive way? These questions especially are very important for understanding how school age children actually develop or probably process or probably learn. So yes, I would recommend that both child and environment matters. Children actively explore and influences the environment, which in turn shapes their learning and growth. Ignoring environmental limits understanding. Past theories that overlook the environment role provide incomplete explanations of development. Need for balance. Neither solely child-centered nor solely environment-centered approaches are enough. We need a balanced understanding of their interaction. This shift in perspective helps us in better understanding of how children learn and probably develop, especially in different contexts like school settings. The study of children's learning is often focused on either what is inside the mind of the individual, the nativism, on what is in the environmental, as in environmentalism. This ignores how the two work together. Let me go by one step at a time and create and try to figure out how KSA has been derived. KSA, knowledge, skills, and attitude. So diagnosis both nativism and environmentalism assumes structures as in knowledge and skills are preformed either in the child or in the environment. This doesn't explain how new things are learned. Towards a remedy, we need a framework that considers both child and the environment and how they work together to create a new structure. This collaboration framework would require researchers to consider both sides when studying how children study. Challenges creating such solution is difficult. Creating such framework is much more impossible. Even attempts to move beyond preformism like Piaget theories haven't been fully successful. So possible remedy is all that we are using of the word called collaboration to guide researchers and analysis. This would force the researchers to consider both the child and the environment, leading to a more better or comprehensive understanding how the children learn. Let us understand the collaborative cycle. Remember, this is an internal structure that we're talking about, and this is the external structure, internal and external. Both collaborate on behavioral issues, as in how you developed your cognitive things, the scaffolded mental states. The collaboration of external and internal structures produces the behavior represented in the cycle. The feedback arrow runs running from right cycle. Remember, right cycle, it goes around it. External, internal, it goes around and it gives me a feedback as in what needs to be done and how we need to behave around it. So how children depends upon their abilities. Old ways of thinking. Children have fixed abilities of skills. That's what we talk about competence. These abilities can be measured independently of the environment. New ways of thinking, competence is never fixed, but depends on the interaction between the child and the environment. What a child can do depends on the situation and the support they have. Implication, we need to ask new questions, new modalities, explore new options about learning, like how environment can help a child reach their full potential and possibly create those conducive environment. This can help us creating a better learning experiences for all of us. This new understanding of learning is important for teachers, for parents, for children, and every stakeholders who want the child to reach the fullest of the potential. What are the traditional categories of studying child development? One of them is to match the child's behavior with the naturally organized, whether it's acceptable norms within the society. They often assume the relationship between categories that aren't proven altogether, as in the thinking skills before moral skills. They sometimes see single measures as in head size to represent complex concepts. Now, what are my suggestions for improvement is basically using study development for different categories individually in silos and not working with only one. Consider this child as a whole, including emotion, social interaction. Use multiple methods and measures in various settings to capture the element. Focus on the specific, coherent domain of learning, as in early reading skills or mathematical complexities, solving them. So rule assessment methods can help researchers do this. They can identify the mental procedures, or should I say identify the mental blocks that the children has or possess or is been impeded by to solve problem. Testing these rules across different problems will see how well they can adapt, how well they can process, how well they can apply, analyzing both correct answers and errors to understand how children think. This approach provides detailed insight of how children learn, but can sometimes focus too narrowly on specific skills. A better approach would combine developmental stage, understanding where the skill fits in an overall uh, journey of cognitive development journey. Rule assessment, analyzing the specific rules that the children use in a different settings. Yes, we talk about the cognitive development and emotional dynamics. Emotion has been usually been recognized as a crucial part of child dynamics. And if you look, I have utilized so many emojis for you to understand only about emotion, of love, of enjoyment, of naughtiness, of happiness, of anger, of frustrations, being indifferent, and so on and so forth. So this is especially true for babies and young children, but studies on older children are emerging as well. This shift highlights the importance of looking at the whole child development and the cognitive abilities to understand how they develop and learn. Now we talk about preschoolers. Can you imagine two emotions at one places of a child being happy on a bike but sad because its speed is very, very slow? Or an elementary schooler starting understanding of two emotions at once, but it takes until the age of 9 for most to fully grasp it, understand it, and even express it. Similar pattern applies to understanding the word nice and mean, emotions in social interaction. Support matters. Environment can influence how quickly a child can learn these concepts. Development stages, preschoolers seeing things in separate categories. Elementary schoolers see intersections. Adolescents use broader personality terms thereby. So this is just a piece, single piece in the puzzle, and there are more to emotional development than just understanding the emotion. Children's emotions change significantly along with their cognitive development. New emotions with new thinking, each major cognitive leap or understanding roles abstraction of might bring to a new emotions like guilt, pride, or confusion. Let's example around age 4. Understanding social roles role might lead to emotion linked to Oedipus complex or a new friendship and a new friendship. Around 6 or 7 age, conscious and social comparison might bring in guilt, anxiety, and pride. Around the age 10 to 12, abstract thinking might cause the confusions and turmoil at a very early adolescence age. Around the age of 14 to 16, relating abstraction might help people move out of that confusion and understand the intimate relationship better. By understanding how emotions and thinking are connected, we can better understand how a child developed as a whole individual. So, moral of the story? The story is not simple. The moral is it is a very complicated affair which requires patience to understand. The brain changes matter. They must play a role in how children develop. Animal studies show how experiences early damage can affect the brain development, but this method don't work for human beings. Past research on human had mixed results and sometimes even led to oversimplified conclusions. Brain growth equals to learning ability. Completely crap. Brain growth spurts might happen at specific age, but they don't really directly tell or proportionally tell us about the what the children learn or the child learn. Brain versus behavior changes in the brain and behavior can happen and might happen together also, and one might become cleverer than the other, and so on and so forth. And the development of brain might be earlier than that of behavior, or the development of behavior might be earlier than that of brain. So more research is actually required. It's a complex topic, as I stated. We need a better ways to study, understand, and come to conclusion. Two extremes. One is social learning, where everything is learned through understanding, copying, and mimicking others. And the other one is a little scientist. Children learn on their own on what they are comfortable with also. Neither of these are true. So better answer is guided reinventions. Children learn by rebuilding ideas with others' help, like building with Legos with instructions. Vygotsky's ideas about social interaction is key to learning. Definitely, we need to study and how it happens, not just results. Different levels of interaction, social interaction can happen in different ways, some leading to a deeper learning than others. So we can compare two teaching styles, embedded teaching and disembedded teaching. Embedded teaching is naturalistic, like how our parents teach what to do and what to avoid, with guidance woven into activities. Responsive helps the child in whatever they are doing it and helping a child proactively rather than reprimanding the child. Then is all about effective. Research says it leads to a better learning and engagement. Now let us have a hands-on approach as a disembedment teaching. Traditional classroom style, separate lessons not connected with the child's current requirement or current interest also. Less effective. Many children struggle with this switch from natural learning style. School must move towards more embedded teaching method as they are more aligned to how a child naturally learns, as the case might be. So let us understand what is the link between learning, reading, and writing. That is how electricity, as we talk about it, and how children think and learn. New areas of studies, looking at how literacy and schooling affects the child thought process. Literacy is not just reading, literacy is not just writing, it includes a system of representing ideas like drawing or maps. Different waves of representing ideas have different effects, how that can be influenced by a specific system they use. More research needed. We need to be better understanding of different things or different practices affects the child's mind. What are we looking at? The old ways of measuring absolutely don't work. They often compare illiterate people to illiterate people. You're comparing oranges and apple, completely uncomparable things. These methods miss the point. Literacy helps thinking by letting us use the external world. We need better tests. We need people to use literacy tool to focus on specific thinking skills. And remember, not all literacy is same as the case might be. So literate practices and schooling, school versus real life, you need to understand one is within the modulated condition, the other one is real life without any moderations at all. So there's a difference between two of them. Literacy made this possible. The way this way of learning things of separate part is possible because of writing and reading. Writing let us store and organize information in different categories. School can change, school needs to change. Teacher can make school much more towards a real life situation by showing how and what they teach is useful, letting the people connect with the knowledge of what they already know. Science as a model. Science is a good example of how people learn together using a writing and reading model. Scientists often build each other's works and question each other's ideas altogether. Literacy is all about thinking. Literacy is all about changing on what your assumptions are all about it. Learning to read, learning to write doesn't just changes your thought process, but it changes how we can react to the environment. It also allows to build upon the past knowledge and try new things. So as in conclusion, lot of research, more focus specific areas like Piaget theories or school testing is required. Now researchers are looking at a bigger picture, how different aspects of child thinking, feeling, and social behavior work together. They are developing better things to see what the child is looking at, what the child is figuring out, how it is been reacting. Basically, researchers are moving beyond specific theories and test the unwarranted things of, as in how kids learn as a whole, considering their minds, the world, and the situation in and around it. With this, I come to an end of this presentation. Thank you for watching this.